Imagine stepping back in time to the morning of June 18th, 1576. We are deep in the rugged Aravalli hills of Rajasthan, India. Picture a narrow, incredibly tight mountain bottleneck. Right here, a tiny Rajput force is about to do something literally impossible. They are setting a trap for the seemingly unstoppable imperial army of the Mughal Empire. It's a massive clash, and we're not just talking swords and spears here, but a real clash of unyielding will. So it all comes down to this one burning question. How exactly did a force of merely 3,000 warriors manage to trap and honestly completely terrify an unstoppable empire? Well, to get it, we really have to look at the guy leading the charge, Maharana Pratap, the king of Mewar. You see, while pretty much every other Rajput kingdom had already submitted to Emperor Akbar's expansion, whether through diplomacy, marriage, or just sheer force, Maharana Pratap flat out refused. He chose absolute independence over submission. He made it crystal clear that Mewar was not going to bow. Okay, let's dive into the sheer scale of this mismatch. On one side, you've got the Mughal army led by Raja Man Singh. We are talking about a massive, heavily armed imperial force numbering anywhere from thousands up to 80,000 soldiers, complete with advanced armor, muskets, and specialized war elephants. And on the other side, Maharana Pratap's forces were just about 3,000 cavalry and 400 local Bhil archers. It is the ultimate David versus Goliath scenario.
Now, you definitely don't fight an army of that massive scale on an open plain. That's military suicide. Pratap knew this, which brings us to Section 1, the Haldighati bottleneck, where the trap is set. Pratap had one massive ace up his sleeve, and that was his deep knowledge of the local geography. He decided to make his stand at Haldighati. Now, this is a super narrow mountain pass, actually named for its rocks that gave the soil a turmeric yellow color, or haldi. By forcing this gigantic Mughal army to squeeze through this deadly, rugged terrain, Maharana Pratap essentially leveled the playing field. He completely neutralized their overwhelming numbers. If the Mughals wanted Mewar, they literally had to walk directly into this bottleneck. And high up in the jagged cliffs right above that pass, the trap was waiting. Those 400 Bhil warriors I mentioned, led by Rao Punja, they sat up there, completely silent. Now, these guys weren't professional imperial soldiers, but their loyalty to Pratap was absolutely unbreakable. They're waiting up there, gripping deadly longbows and hovering over these massive heavy boulders, just watching the dust cloud of the imperial vanguard getting closer and closer. They were just waiting for the trap to snap shut. And oh man, snap shut it did. Let's move into Section 2, the ferocious clash, where we see first blood. Picture this. It's just 3 hours after sunrise, and the vanguard of the imperial army steps right into the pass. With a single battle cry, Maharana Pratap launched the first strike, and it was a devastating, explosive downhill cavalry charge. The sheer velocity of those Rajput horses slammed right into the crowded Mughal front lines. It caught the imperial vanguard totally off guard. And fighting right alongside Pratap in this charge was Hakim Khan Soor, a fearless Afghan warrior, which really proves this was a battle for freedom, not religion. Because the pass was so incredibly narrow, the Mughal soldiers at the back couldn't even see the absolute carnage happening at the front. So they were actually pushing their own forward lines straight into the Rajput swords. Utter chaos erupted. While the cavalry is just smashing the front, the Bhils are raining down hell from above. They're dropping dark clouds of arrows and crushing boulders right onto the enclosed troops. The initial shock was so profound that the left and right wings of the mighty Mughal army just dissolved in panic. I mean, they were in a full, panicked retreat backward out of the pass. To stop the absolute rout, a Mughal commander named Mitar Khan literally had to yell out a desperate lie. He screamed that Emperor Akbar himself had just arrived with massive reinforcements. It is wild to think that a literal fake news shout was the only thing that turned those fleeing troops back around. Eventually, the fighting violently spilled out from that tight pass and onto the wider plains, a place aptly named Ruktatal, or the Pool of Blood. And this brings us to Section 3. Beasts of War, where giants collide. Now that they had some room to maneuver, the Mughals brought out their ultimate heavy weapons to try and break the Rajput resistance, their giant, armored war elephants. But Pratap, he answered right back in kind. What followed were these terrifying, heavy, ground-shaking wrestling matches between giant beasts. Pratap's legendary royal elephant, Ramprasad, was just a force of nature here. He fought like a demon, causing massive devastation among the imperial beasts.
He even took on the Mughal elephants Gajmukta and Gajraj before tragically losing his driver to a Mughal arrow.
Now, what is truly heartbreaking about this explainer is the fate of Ram Prasad. After the battle, the elephant was captured, actually one of the only real prizes the Mughals managed to claim, and he was presented to Emperor Akbar, who renamed him Pir Prasad. But this magnificent animal's loyalty was so deeply tied to Maharana Pratap, he flat out refused to eat any of the lavish food the Mughals offered him. He chose to starve. He sacrificed himself out of sheer loyalty after 18 days. Back on that chaotic battlefield, seeing the sheer weight of enemy numbers starting to turn the tide, Maharana Pratap knew he had to cut the head off the snake. He locked eyes with the enemy commander, Raja Man Singh, who was sitting high atop his own massive elephant, Mardana. Accelerating through the absolute fray, Pratap spurred his legendary blue-gray stallion, Chetak, directly toward that giant beast. And this brilliantly illustrates one of the most iconic moments in military history. Chetak charged and made an unbelievable leap, literally planting his front hooves firmly onto the armored forehead of the elephant. Standing high up in his stirrups, Pratap hurled his massive spear right at Man Singh. The commander ducked just in time, the spears shattered the metal canopy and killed the driver instead. But as Chetak jumped back down, a sharp blade attached to the elephant's trunk sliced deeply into the horse's hind leg. The strike narrowly missed, and the situation instantly turned dire. This leads us into Section 4, Sacrifice and Escape, looking at the true price of freedom. Chetak was mortally wounded, and Maharana Pratap suddenly found himself completely isolated and surrounded by a swarm of imperial troops. Seeing the imminent danger to his king, a noble Rajput warrior named Jala Man Singh made a split-second, incredibly selfless decision. He rushed right in, snatched the royal umbrella and emblems, and put them on his own head, pretending to be the Maharana. He drew the entire, overwhelming fury of the enemy army upon himself. He fought with immense bravery, laying down his life right there so that the hope of Mewar's freedom could escape. Thanks to that incredible distraction, Pratap was carried away from the carnage by his fiercely loyal horse, Chetak. Bleeding heavily and running on literally 3 legs, Chetak pushed through the rugged mountains with sheer desperation. When they finally reached a wide, rushing mountain stream near Balicha, the horse summoned one final, superhuman surge of energy. He leaped completely across the brook to safety, landing near a Shivalinga. Having completed his final duty, the legendary stallion collapsed. He breathed his last breath right there in his master's arms. The unbreakable warrior king, a man who had never yielded to an entire empire, wept over his fallen companion. To this very day, a memorial stands at that spot, honoring the profound bond and absolute loyalty of an animal that altered the course of history. So the crucial point is this: as we enter Section 5, the unbroken guerrilla and a strategic comeback. When the dust finally settled on the Battle of Haldighati, the Mughals technically held the physical battlefield, but strategically, they completely failed. They didn't capture Maharana Pratap, they didn't kill him, and they absolutely failed to crush his spirit or annex Mewar. Instead, Pratap retreated deep into the hills. With the incredible financial support of his childhood friend Bhima Shah, who literally gave him his entire wealth, Pratap rebuilt a massive army. Utilizing that rugged terrain and his unbreakable alliance with the Bhil tribes, he launched a relentless guerrilla warfare campaign. He completely cut off Mughal supply lines, turning the tables so effectively that the mighty conquerors, ironically, became the ones trapped and starving inside their own conquered forts.
Let's see how this builds into an incredible comeback. Fast forward 6 years to 1582 at the Battle of Dewar. Pratap's forces fell upon the Mughals like lightning. In a single day, an astonishing 36 Mughal outposts were completely destroyed. Pratap wiped out the Mughal command, which led to the surrender of 36,000 soldiers. From there, he systematically regained almost all of his lost territories, moved his capital to Chavand, and ruled independently until his natural death in 1597. Maharana Pratap's legacy is just monumental. He proved that ultimate greatness isn't measured by the size of your empire, but by the depth of your courage to defend your freedom. He never bowed, he never submitted, and it's such a powerful reminder to us today that sheer resilience and utilizing your unique strengths can outmaneuver even the most overwhelming odds.
His brilliant guerrilla tactics went on to inspire future legendary tacticians like Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj for generations to come. Which leaves us with this final thought. Can a tactical retreat actually become the ultimate victory? The Battle of Haldighati is debated all the time, but when you look at the outcome, it wasn't really a defeat for Mewar. It was the fiery spark that ensured their independence against impossible odds. It shows us that as long as the spirit remains unbroken, the battle is never truly lost. Thank you for joining me on this explainer. Keep questioning, keep learning, and I'll catch you in the next one.